I'll never forget the night those words kept echoing in my head. A friend of mine, someone I trusted for years, had pulled me aside after church last Sunday. His face was serious, almost hesitant, as if he wasn't sure whether he should even tell me. But then he leaned in closer and whispered, "There's something about your son. Something you probably don't know." I laughed it off right there in the parking lot. "My son?
Aram,"
I said, half chuckling.
"you must be mistaken."
He didn't laugh. He just gave me a look. A look that carried weight, one that planted a seed of doubt I couldn't shake off. I drove home that evening with my son sitting right beside me in the car, humming along to the radio, looking as normal and carefree as any 19-year-old should. But inside me, something was unsettled. Aram had always been a good kid. A quiet, respectful boy who never caused trouble, never gave me reasons to question him. He went to college, had a few friends, worked part-time at the library. He was the kind of son most parents would pray for.
So why did my France word crawl under my skin like thorn?
At first, I ignored it. I told myself it was nonsense. People gossip.
People misunderstand.
But then little things started to stand out. Things I had never noticed before. The way Aram locked his bedroom door more often now. The way he would smile at his phone but quickly turn the screen away if I walked by. The nights he'd come home later than usual, with no clear explanation, brushing me off with a casual, "just out with friends, Mom." I tried to dismiss it. But the seed had been planted, and doubt grew roots in my chest. That night, I sat by the window with the curtains barely cracked open, waiting. Watching. My heart pounded like I was preparing for a confession I didn't even want.
When the clock struck 11, he heard the front door creak open.
Aram slipped in, moving quietly, like he didn't want to wake me. But he didn't know I was already awake. I watched him tiptoe down the hallway, glance toward my bedroom door, and then disappear into his room.
He should have let it go. He should have gone back to bed.
But a voice inside me whispered, "Follow him.
See for yourself."
So I did. I crept down the hallway, careful not to let the wooden floor betray me with a squeak. I stood outside his door, heart hammering, ears straining.
At first, he heard nothing. Just silence.
Then, faintly, a sound.
A whisper.
Like he was talking to someone. But who?
He leaned closer.
The words were muffled, almost too soft to make out. Then I realized, he wasn't on the phone. His voice wasn't rising and falling the way it usually did when he spoke with his friends. No. This was different. Lower.
Almost secretive.
I froze.
Maille en trembled against the doorframe. All the warning, all the doubt, came rushing back at once.
What was my son hiding from me? I stood there outside his room, my breath caught in my throat, straining to hear. The whispers stopped suddenly.
Silence.
For a long moment, I thought he had caught me listening. My heart raced. If he opened that door right now, what excuse would I have?
He pressed himself against the wall, praying for the floor note to creak under me.
Then I heard it. A sound that made my skin crawl. A laugh. Not a loud laugh. Not the kind he used to let out when he was watching comedy shows or joking with friends. No, this was softer, stranger, almost private. Like he was sharing something with someone I couldn't see. I wanted to tell myself it was nothing. Maybe he was watching a video, playing a game, who knows. But that little voice inside me wouldn't rest. The same voice that had whispered, "Watch him. Find out." I hesitated, then slowly crouched down, pressing my eye against the tiny gap between the door and the frame. What I saw inside made my stomach twist. Aram was sitting on the floor, not on his bed, not at his desk. Right in the middle of the room, legs crossed, his phone placed in front of him. The screen glowed faintly, and though I couldn't see what was on it, I could see him. His face. His expression. It wasn't the son I knew. His eyes were wide, almost glassy, and his lips curled into a smile that felt foreign. He wasn't just looking at the screen, he was staring into it, like it had taken hold of him. Every few seconds, he whispered something under his breath. Words I couldn't catch. I shivered, even though the hallway was warm. For a few minutes, I stayed frozen, my mind racing through every explanation. Drugs? No, my son wasn't like that. Some kind of strange group online? Maybe. Or, was he in trouble? The urge to burst in, to demand answers, clawed at me. But something stronger held me back, fear. Fear of what I might find out if I pushed too hard. I stepped back quietly, careful not to make a sound, and slipped into my room. But I couldn't sleep that night. His face, his smile, those whispers, they replayed in my mind like a broken record. By morning, I had made up my mind. I needed to know the truth. The next day, I decided to test him. At breakfast, I acted normal, pouring cereal, asking about school. He seemed fine. Too fine. He laughed at my jokes, asked about groceries, even complimented the pancakes. For a moment, I thought maybe I'd imagined it all. But then I noticed his hands, slightly trembling as he reached for the orange juice. He quickly shoved them under the table, pretending to check his phone. Long night? I asked casually. He froze. Just for a second. Then he smiled. Nah, just studying. I nodded, hiding my racing thoughts. Studying at midnight, whispering into your phone. That day, while he was at class, I went into his room. Something I hadn't done in years. I felt guilty, but my fear outweighed my shame. His room was tidy, bed made, desk neatly arranged. Nothing unusual. But when I looked closer, I noticed his journal tucked beneath the mattress. He hadn't kept a journal since middle school. Hands shaking, I pulled it out. The cover was plain black, unmarked. I hesitated before opening it. A mother shouldn't violate her child's privacy. But what if his life, his safety, depended on it? I flipped to the first page. The handwriting was his, no doubt. But the words, they didn't sound like my son. They said they'd meet me again tonight. I have to prove myself worthy. She doesn't understand. None of them do. My heart dropped. Who was they? What was he proving? Page after page, I found the same cryptic notes. References to the circle, to the voice, to meetings late at night. By the time I closed the journal, my hands were ice cold. Something was happening to my son. Something I didn't understand. That evening, I couldn't hide my nerves. I cooked dinner, but barely touched my food. I watched him laugh at the TV, chat like nothing was wrong, while the weight of those journal pages sat heavy in my chest. When he excused himself and went to his room early, I followed. Not immediately, I waited, giving him time. Then, just like before, I crept down the hallway. This time, I didn't just listen. I opened the door. Slowly. Quietly. He didn't notice at first. His eyes were glued to the screen again, whispers slipping from his lips. The glow of the phone lit up his face in an eerie light. Aram, I said softly. He flinched, nearly dropping the phone. His head whipped around, eyes wide. For a split second, I saw fear in his face. Then anger. Mom, what are you doing? My voice shook. What are you doing? Who are you talking to? He pressed the phone to his chest, hiding it. It's nothing. Just a video. Don't lie to me, I snapped, my fear spilling out as anger. I read your journal, Aram. I know about the circle. I know something's going on. His face went pale. You read that? I nodded, tears pricking my eyes. I'm your mother. I can't sit back and watch you slip into something dangerous. Please, tell me the truth. For a long moment, he just stared at me. The room was heavy with silence. Then finally, he whispered. You wouldn't believe me if I did. His words cut through me like a blade. You wouldn't believe me if I did. Try me, I said, my voice trembling but firm. I'm your mother. Whatever it is, I need to know. Aram looked away, his grip tightening on the phone like it was his lifeline. For a moment, I thought he might shut down completely. But then his shoulders sagged, and a look of exhaustion spread across his face, the kind of weariness I had never seen on him before. They reached out to me online, he finally muttered. Months ago. At first, I thought it was just a group of people talking about life, sharing ideas, you know? But then it became more. I swallowed hard. Who are they? They call themselves the Circle, he whispered. They said they understand me in ways no one else does. They told me I could belong. That I was special. My chest tightened. It was worse than I imagined. A cult. A manipulation. Someone had gotten inside my son's head. Aram, I said softly, stepping closer, they're using you. They're making you believe. No, he snapped, his eyes flashing. They listen to me. They don't judge me. They don't act like I'm just some kid. They said if I proved myself, I'd finally matter. I froze. Those words, if I proved myself, echoed from his journal. My throat went dry. What do you mean, proved yourself? What are they asking you to do? He hesitated, his jaw clenched. And then, in a whisper so low I barely caught it, he said, they want me to meet them.
Tonight. The air left my lung.
I tried to stay calm. Where? He shook his head.
I can't tell you.
They said if I tell anyone, I'll fail the test. And then I'll lose my chance. My knees felt weak. My sweet, gentle boy was being lured into something dangerous, something that preyed on his loneliness. I thought of all the nights I brushed off his mood swings, all the times I told myself he was just being a teenager. Maybe I had missed the signs. Maybe I hadn't been listening the way I should have.
Aram, listen to me, he said, tears welling up.
You don't need to prove yourself to anyone. You matter. You've always mattered. To me. To your family. He shook his head violently. You don't get it, Mom.
You've never understood.
They give me answers. They make me feel like I have a purpose. Something bigger than just school and chores and pretending to be okay. My heart broke hearing the rawness in his voice. I stepped forward, gently placing my hands on his trembling shoulders.
Baby, you don't need stranger to tell you you're special. You are special. You're my son. I've watched you grow, I've seen your heart.
Don't let them steal that from you. For a second, his eyes softened.
The ange wavered.
But then his phone buzzed in his hand, and just like that, he flinched back, clutching it like a shield. They're waiting for me, he whispered. I didn't sleep at all that night. Every sound, every creak of the house made me jolt, terrified he might slip out while I wasn't looking. At some point, I must have dozed off in the chair by the hallway because when I opened my eyes, the first rays of dawn were breaking. His door was still shut.
Relief flooded me.
But I knew this wasn't over. The next morning, I called an old friend, a counselor who worked with troubled youth. I told her everything, choking back tears as I described what I had found in his journal, what I had seen with my own eyes. She listened quietly, then said something I didn't expect. Don't confront the circle directly. They thrive on secrecy. What your son needs isn't a fight, it's an anchor. You have to be louder than their voices. Her words became my mission. Over the weeks that followed, I changed my approach. I didn't spy on him anymore. I didn't accuse or pry. Instead, I started talking. Really talking. I asked about his day, his thoughts, his fears. And most importantly, I listened. At first, he resisted. He brushed me off, suspicious of my sudden interest. But slowly, walls began to crack. Little by little, he opened up. About the pressure he felt in school. About how he never felt good enough compared to other kids. About the loneliness that gnawed at him when he thought I was too busy to notice. That's when I realized, the circle hadn't created his pain. They had only exploited it. One night, after a long conversation that stretched past midnight, Aram broke down. His shoulders shook as he sobbed into his hands. I don't even know why I believed them, he whispered. I didn't want to feel invisible anymore. I pulled him into my arms, holding him like I hadn't since he was a child. You will never be invisible to me, I whispered into his hair. Never. That was the turning point. It wasn't easy. It took counseling, open talks, even reporting the circle's online activities to authorities. But with time, my son began to heal. He distanced himself from them, deleting their contacts, erasing their influence. He started rebuilding his life, slowly, carefully, with me right there by his side. And though part of me still aches for the nights I almost lost him to shadows I couldn't see, I'm grateful. Grateful that I listened when the whispers of doubt first reached me. Grateful that I decided to watch, to pay attention. Because in the end, it wasn't about catching him doing something wrong. It was about realizing how much he needed me, more than he ever said out loud. That night changed both of us. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this: sometimes the strangest, scariest things you hear about your children aren't warnings to fear them. They're reminders to fight for them. To love them louder than the voices trying to pull them away.